Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business. I'm looking forward to talking with Dwan Dandridge. Dwan, it's great to connect with you today. I'm looking forward to our talk. I sit on a board called Hebrew Free Loan, and you came and spoke. You're the CEO of Black Leaders Detroit, and your group does incredible things. I want to read a little bit about what you do, but why don't you kind of share it in your own words? Because you did a presentation to share with us about your group, and I don't want to lose anything in translation. Talk a little bit about what your organization does.
Well, definitely. First, I'd just love to thank you for having me on, and really appreciate you sharing your platform with us, that we can share a little bit about what we do at Black Leaders Detroit. The way that I describe us is I say we are a funding vehicle for Black entrepreneurs operating in the city of Detroit. And the way that we provide funding is we do grants and we do a no interest loan. And I think that was the reason I was before you and the board that you sit on at Hebrew Free Loan.
Yeah, it's amazing because Hebrew Free Loan does the same thing, no interest loans, and it is, it's such a great way to spur entrepreneurship. Let's talk about, the entrepreneur that can come to you for money, right? So for a loan, what type of entrepreneur is it? Is it I was just interviewing somebody earlier today, and we were talking about all the different types of entrepreneurs, right? There's kind of the entrepreneur that goes out and starts something from scratch, the entrepreneur that opens up a franchise, the entrepreneur that needs a business partner because they maybe can't do it on their own, the entrepreneur who has a full-time job but also a part-time business that they're running. So talk a little bit about just the different buckets of an entrepreneur that you see within your world.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just defined several, right? I get asked this question probably once a week now. When we just launched our no interest loan, it's kind of history in the making. Being able to have a product exclusively for Black entrepreneurs who've historically been left on the outside looking in when it comes to finding access to capital. We have a wide range of entrepreneurs. We have someone that works in the spiritual and mental health field that applied and is going to receive a no interest loan from us. We've had someone that owns a cookie shop that I just came from that I'm one of their best customers, I would say. But we have a couple trucking companies, a guy that's in construction. We're looking for entrepreneurs that are hardworking, looking to scale or stabilize themselves as we're coming on the tail end, we hope, of the pandemic and some of the devastation that they've experienced and kind of made their way through. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart myself. I've run a small business myself, and I knew what it was like to need funding and access to funding and not receive it. Truth be told, there were times during my business tenure where I wouldn't have loaned money to me, knowing what I know about myself, right? But there was definitely times when I, became a much better business person, where I would have definitely taken a chance and made an investment into the company that I was running at the time.
Yeah.
But it was hard to find somebody that was willing. So we want to create that and be available to those that are ready and need access.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about the entrepreneur, the courage of an entrepreneur, right? Because I think, and one of the things Hebrew Free Loan does is also loan interest-free loans to people. And one of the things that I always find that I always love is the courage of an entrepreneur, because even though it's interest-free, you still have to pay it back. And so you still have to run a business and look at all the things as far as cash flow and making sure you're making money and watching expenses and things of that nature. But to the entrepreneur who's listening to this right now, who's saying, "Oh, I never heard of this program. This is something that I can. I've been thinking about a business for a long time. what's the first step that you look for? Do you look for business plans? Do you look for ideas? Like, what does someone need to do to prepare not only their mindset, but to really come to the table?
So one of the things that we look for that's a little bit different is social impact, right? Like we look for businesses that mean more to the community than the service that's provided or the product that's produced. We look for businesses that are creating job opportunities or creating space in Detroit, right? There's one of the recipients of our grants is a coffee shop, Detroit Sip, right on 6 Mile in the Bagley community. And one of the things that intrigued us was that she created space for on the weekends. She had people that would come there and play chess, and she'd have people that would be youth and middle school that were city or state champs, and she'd have senior citizens in there that love to play chess. And what we thought was we can't afford to see that type of space go out of business due to the pandemic. The community needs it as much as we need entrepreneurs to be profitable, right? Like the community needs spaces like that. So that's one of the first things that we look for. Now, we also want to make sure, to your point earlier, that we're paid back, right? So we're looking for entrepreneurs that have gone through some of the growing pains, if you will, right? Like when I ran a construction company, I learned how to become a carpenter from a third generation carpenter who was really good. But he also ran his own business. And I thought that I could learn how to run a business from a carpenter. Just because he was a great carpenter doesn't mean that he was necessarily a good businessman.
Yeah.
So what I found was 3 years into running my business that I was a decent carpenter, but I was a terrible business person, right? What I decided at that point was to pivot and spend the same amount of time that I spent learning how to swing a hammer, plumb a wall, and work a measuring tape. I decided I need to spend that type of time under the tutelage of a successful business person, a successful entrepreneur. I actually went and found a business coach, a business partner, and we brought our strengths together that covered one another's weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I went from being a terrible business person to what I would hope is a decent business person now, today as a CEO of Black Leads Detroit. So to the entrepreneurs that are out there, we're looking for people that are willing to go all in, really willing to put the time, energy, and effort it takes into whatever that means, whatever it takes to kind of like weather storms like a pandemic, and really be okay with taking a real honest look in the mirror and saying, hey, I'm great at this, whatever the product and service is. I have a desire to be in business, but these are the things that I need help with, and identifying those, because, you know, a lot of times entrepreneurs, especially small business person, is the janitor, the accountant, security, and the baker, right? Yeah. Like trying to figure out what it takes to find those services that is not really your niche. And, you know, we can help with that with some of the partnerships that we have. But those are some of the things that we look for.
That's great stuff. That's great stuff. You know, making a social impact is so important, and I love how you look at all the different levels of business. Let me ask you a question. You know, because I get asked this a lot of times too as a business coach. You know, what are some of the key books do you think that every entrepreneur should read?
Yeah, so we use a operating system, EOS.
Yeah, right? Traction. I've had Gino on the show. Right. He's great. Yeah.
Right. And we're a nonprofit, right? So like it's not super common for like nonprofits to see themselves as a business, because oftentimes they're formed to solve a problem. But you know, right now we have our team members that aren't familiar with EOS or kind of new to it, reading what the heck is EOS.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a book that I recommend. Right.
Yeah. That's a really good, that's a great book. Gino's a great guy. He's built a great system. He was on the show a couple months ago, as I said, and yeah, it's good. And I love, I think it's always, finding the right framework on how to run your business is always really important.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about a mission that you guys are on, to get 1 million people to contribute $1 a week. Right? Talk a little bit about that, because I loved when you talked about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we're a nonprofit, and we our approach to long-term fundraising is we're asking everyday people that believe in fairness, believe in equity, to make $1 a week commitment, donate $1 or more a week, $52 a year. You go to our website, you'll see multiple options: $4.33 a month, $1 a week, $52 for the year, or again, as I said in our meeting, other. Right, that's my favorite button in case you want to customize and give a little bit more.
Yeah.
But our goal is to use social media and other media platforms like this one to grow the number of people that have made that commitment to 1 million people. And, we were fortunate to get some funding from the McGregor Fund to actually put together a membership growth strategy. And now we're just starting to implement that. So we're excited about that. We're excited about the interest. We're excited about like all the people that believe in the work that we're doing. As you hear us, very specific with the community that we're looking to serve, and we're called Black Leaders Detroit. But we believe that there are a lot of people out there that aren't from the Black community that believe in fairness and believe in like being part of the solution.
Yeah.
That we want to make sure that they know that they're welcome to join us in our mission to create equal access to capital.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you're doing. I loved your presentation. What's if you were to talk to somebody who's listening to this right now, who wants to connect with you, who has an idea but they don't know what the idea is, they've been struggling to figure out what their idea is, they're in a corporate job but they want to start a business and they just need somebody to talk to or brainstorm with. Is that another thing that you offer, just for people to call and say, hey, I have this idea, like a think tank?
Well, me personally, I am a dreamer and someone that I think is decent at casting vision and having big goals and ideas. And I was able to convince some very accomplished friends to help me take this idea that's Black Leaders Detroit and turn it into an organization. So if there's somebody that is looking for someone and they've already started the work and started some of the process, they can reach me by reaching out to us at info@blackleadersdetroit.org and just ask for Dwan. I'd be more than happy to spend some time having conversation with them because, I believe that the solutions to today's problems are sitting inside of some of us that are gaining experience. Sometimes entrepreneurs like shame those that are working 9 to 5s. And some of the things that I learned and some of the jobs that I've held, they serve us well at Black Leaders Detroit right now. So I'd love to be available to spend some time with people that are getting ready to pivot and make a transition.
Great. Yeah. It seems to be kind of the decade of the pivot, Dwan, doesn't it? It seems to be
Yes.
that, there's all of these people, there's people all over the world who are saying, God, this can be done a different way. This is something I want that isn't offered. The entrepreneurial spirit is, I think, especially I'll say post-COVID, even though I know COVID's not over, in a post-COVID world where I think people are more in alignment with their own personal values and what they want and the fulfillment that they want and the how they want to live their life. So I think it's great. Organizations like yours, organizations like the one I'm involved in, Hebrew Free Loan, they are the greatest. Before we go, I do want to ask you a little bit more about you, and to dive a little bit more into, you touched on it and you did a little bit more than touch on it, but, you started this organization. And so what was really, what was the biggest lesson you learned as you started this organization?
That's a great question. And I would have answered it differently when we first started out. I think that oftentimes we're preaching to big corporation and big business the need for diversity. And as we serve the for-profit and nonprofit sector, one of the things that I find myself preaching to the Black entrepreneur is the importance for them to have diversity in their personal and professional networks and being intentional about that. If you took me back 5 or 6 years, I would have kind of written everything that I would say excluded or didn't include the Black entrepreneur when it comes to getting equal access to capital. I would have put that under the box of or category of like some type of systemic racist system issue. Now it's a little bit more nuanced to me. What I'm realizing is that oftentimes relationships can give you access, right? Because I have a relationship with the executive director, David Cantura, who's become a good friend over the last 3 years, like I've gained access to the blueprint that Hebrew Free Loan has used to do what we're looking to do at Black Leaders Detroit for 127 years, right? I would say that's the biggest thing that I've learned is the importance of having a diverse network. I think that many of the Black Detroiters that run nonprofits are great at solving the problem that they're out to solve. Oftentimes they're practitioners, and many of them have a huge Rolodex of other problem solvers.
Yeah.
What they may not have is a huge Rolodex of check writers.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that comes, and trust me, if you only was able to have one, you got to have the person that can solve the problem. Right. Otherwise, you're just throwing money on a fire. Right. So I understand the value and the problem solver, but I'm consistently preaching, hey, make sure that you grow your network of people that can write checks. And if you look at what the studies on the racial wealth gap in our country shows, oftentimes that's going to come from people outside of your community.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's one thing I talk about a lot too, is always be growing your network. Always be growing your network. I think it's such sound advice. Last question, best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I wouldn't say that I could narrow it down to one thing, but I think that the approach to looking at complicated things. My mother and father had me when they were very young, and my dad did, I think, one day in 9th grade before he had to drop out to become a breadwinner, right? Because he was having a son. And he has a very common sense approach to some of the most complicated problems that we face as a society. And that's the way he would raise me and teach me and train me to look at things.
Yeah.
That's why I can look at a problem like the one that exists when you're talking about limited access to capital and say, there's a solution to it, right? And, people that are watching us right now, I hope they realize that they're the solution to it. So that's it. Like, problems can be big, but, at the end of the day, it's most likely a real common sense solution to whatever the problem is.
Yeah, I love it. Beautifully said. Your dad is a wise man.
Thanks.
As are you, but sometimes I think people try to overcomplicate things, and it's, I love people that can just break it down to the simple. So It's great. Yeah. Dwan, tell people how they can connect with you, learn more about you, your website, any contact information that you want to share.
Okay. I'll start by saying we're going to, I rode my bike from Detroit to Mackinac last year to the policy conference in an effort to raise awareness for our cause. We're going to be doing that again this year, May 22nd through the 28th. So please, if you're a rider, come out and join us for one of the legs of the ride. The average day is about 50 miles. But if you're not an avid cyclist, you can come out and see us off. We're going to be leaving on May 22nd, and we're inviting 250 people to come out and just see us off by riding an 8-mile ride and just, sending us off. But You can find out more about that and other ways to support the work that we do and keep up with us by going to blackleadersdetroit.org. All of our information is there on our website.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you being on, taking time to talk to me and the Think community. Thanks for everything that you do. You've got a phenomenal organization and you're doing great things. And I'm glad that David Contour could be the bridge of us, meeting, connecting, and getting to know each other. Continue to do great things. And, I'm glad I'm in your network now and you're in mine. So we'll definitely
likewise.
Think community. If you want to reach out to Dwan, please do. And all your contact information will be in the show notes too. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.